Hello, and welcome to another of the Nautical Institute's technical webinars. I am David Petraco with the headquarters staff in London. Welcome from my home in London, where the sun is just rising, and I'm being joined today by Paul Holthus, who's the founder and CEO of the World Ocean Council, joined from his home in Hawaii. Not good morning, good evening, Paul.
Thanks, David. Very happy to be here.
And thanks for staying up for this.
Yeah.
Right, but before we start, I'll just give a brief introduction. I hope everybody's aware of the Nautical Institute, but if not, we are the international professional body. Our main role is in helping our members with their professional development and representing them at forum around the world, such as the IMO. And of course, the World Ocean Council, of which we're very pleased to be members. We primarily share ideas and best practices, and it's a collective, a cooperative of professionals from around the world that we rely on, listening to our members and representing them. The reason we focus so much on maritime professionals is we really do believe that a professional attitude, somebody who believes themselves to be professional, who prepares themselves to be professional, makes better decisions. And that's better decisions in all areas. And can maritime professionals make better decisions with ocean responsibility? Well, that's the question that Paul's going to answer today. Needless to say, I believe it is. So before we start, this is an interactive session. You can participate, not with your cameras or your microphone, but by your keyboard. You have a little control panel up in the upper right-hand side of your screen. If you expand that, you have various options. You can type a question down here. Remember to click the button that says send, and we'll do our best. There are a couple of handouts. Now, Paul's slides are brilliant. I've seen them. It's going to be a great presentation, but there's a lot of information. So if you want to download a copy, you can download it from the handout section. Right. After the webinar ends, you will be prompted to do a little survey. It'll only take a couple minutes, but it really will help us improve our delivery. So please do that. A couple hours after the webinar ends, so please be a little bit patient, but after, you will get a thank you email saying thank you for attending, and there will be a link to a personalized certificate if you would like that. Probably by tomorrow, a recording of this webinar will be on our YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube and search Nautical Institute, and not only this webinar, but all our others, and feel free to share those with your friends and colleagues. You are not alone. There are over 300 of you out there. So when you're doing questions, please be as succinct as possible, which will help me field those questions. So it is my pleasure to introduce Paul Holthus, as I said, the founder and CEO of the World Ocean Council. Paul has worked in this area for oceans many, many years, senior positions with the UN and other agencies. He's worked in over 30 countries. He founded the World Ocean Council in 2010, and I think, Paul, we've probably known each other since about that time. I think we're there pretty much at the start. And he works across all ocean industries and looks for leadership in the area of responsibility and sustainability. And it's very important that commercial users of the ocean do show leadership and don't just react and wait for regulation to come on. And I know, as a mariner myself and an ocean user, and everything from driving ships to swimming and scuba diving, how important it is to protect our oceans. And Paul and I will discuss today how you as individuals and how you representing your companies might be able to make better decisions. So on that note, Paul, I'm going to make you the presenter. Here we go.
Great. All right.
Looks good, Paul. Off you
Great.
go.
Wonderful. Thank you, David, for that very nice introduction, and thank you for the invitation to come and make this presentation and have this discussion with you. I think this is really, at the heart of certainly what we do at the World Ocean Council, and such a critical part of what the challenges facing the shipping industry and many of the other ocean industries. So what I'd like to do is really look at that bigger picture first of what is the ocean business community, and then focus in on shipping and how shipping can make a difference in responsible use of the ocean. As I mentioned, and as David mentioned, it's really part of this is really thinking about the overall picture of who all is out there and what kind of uses are going on in the ocean. And we'd like to really help each sector really think about themselves as part of a broader community that's obviously the different direct ocean users to start with. So shipping, fishing, oil and gas, offshore renewables, cruise tourism, ports, aquaculture, etc. But there's also the diverse range of support industries that make all of those direct uses possible. So obviously for shipping, shipbuilders, maritime fuels, maritime electronics, a whole range of goods and products and services, and many of those then cross over into supporting other sectors and into this web or ecosystem, and I like to refer to it as an ocean business ecosystem that makes it possible for all of this ocean economic activity to take place. And another part of that is the essential surrounding infrastructure of insurance and finance and legal services, and the professionals that make those that undertake those activities to really keep the whole ecosystem operating. So if we look at all of these different sectors, and it's a growing, expanding group of uses, with obviously the renewables coming on, and carbon sequestration and other sort of new and innovative uses of the ocean. But even for the existing uses, there's an expansion of the kinds, not only the kinds, but the levels of activity, the duration, intensity, the location, geographic extent and frequency. Just to use a well-known example of the tremendous growth in shipping in the Arctic, for example, which I just looked at some data the other day. The last 3 years, it's up 230%. So this is an ocean that's increasingly used. Shipping as one of the longest standing ocean use areas and industries is set to continue to grow at an incredible rate. And we are often presenting this information to other industries and other ocean stakeholders so that they realize the size and the growth and the trajectory for shipping. Obviously, this year being an extremely unusual year, to say the least, and for which I would mention that we've also been working to help support and certainly educate and advocate about the important role of seafarers and the tremendous challenges with the crew change crisis that's going on right now. And certainly our thoughts go to those that are having difficulties because of that, and the tremendous challenges that the seafaring community is facing right now. So with the many seafarers and shipping companies in operation and the growth expected, it's really important to then think about how does that role of shipping and its size and growth fit into the overall ocean picture and the other industries that are out there. And I've got similar to that description of the shipping industry on the previous slide, we have information on all these other sectors, of which there's just a handful presented here, in terms of working to have the other industries understand shipping and each other, to really look at the big picture. And that big picture, when you put it all together, and what the science community has been increasingly looking at the entire global ocean ecosystem. It's a single connected up three-dimensional ecosystem of the oceans, and that's why we always refer to it in the singular, the ocean and the World Ocean Council, because it is one single global ecosystem, and all of it, as you can see on this this map, is affected by human activity to one extent or another. And this is really the driver behind the increased need and opportunity for shipping and the other industries to address sustainable practices, sustainable use, responsible use. The challenge is that all of these various
I apologize to everybody. We're having a little bit of problem with sound. Stand by.
so there's this need for collaboration, for leadership to tackle these issues in a way that will, excuse me, that will ensure that we've got the ocean as a healthy and productive ecosystem moving forward. The challenge has been the need for a structure and a process to bring together the various industries. And this is what has led to the development of the World Ocean Council as an organization to connect industries in leadership and collaboration and action to advance what we call corporate ocean responsibility, and to bring together a movement, an alliance to work towards this goal that you can see on the screen here of healthy and productive ocean, the ocean as a healthy and productive global ocean, and its sustainable use and responsible economic activity. Importantly, this is underlined by business values for companies that really want to move forward and be progressive in this development of responsible practices. So this will help develop and ensure access and social license, and stability and predictability in ocean operations and access. Let me mention a bit of the framework, the outline of areas in which this leadership alliance is working together. This is connected up now through the Sustainable Development Goals, which were launched about 5 years ago, and provide a basis for all of us to work together, all of us in the ocean business community, to link with other parts of the private sector and to link with other stakeholders, the governments, intergovernmental bodies, the NGOs, the science community, civil society. And I won't go into these in details, but just to give you a sense of the broad kinds of things that we're working to develop and pull together here through the World Ocean Council. And I'd highlight in particular, though, the Young Ocean Professionals Network, the opportunity for young shipping professionals to engage with young professionals in other sectors around sustainable ocean use and development. And we pull this overall business community together in the Sustainable Ocean Summit on an annual basis as really the preeminent gathering of business and investment around ocean sustainability. The Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, do then present a set of opportunities for shipping to be a part of this global movement on sustainable development, and I'm happy to explore and develop this further with any companies that are interested to understand more about this. But the key question is really how can ocean industries really engage in achieving sustainable development as a part of this global framework and commitment. And what's really valuable then is to think about the specific sort of practical operational sustainability issues that are affecting ocean industries. And we have, through our work at the World Ocean Council, then pulled together and developed with the companies that are involved and our overall network. As per the earlier information, we've got some 35,000 points of contact within the ocean business and ocean business media and ocean investment related community. And through the work of interacting with that network, this in the next slide illustrate or outline some of the key issues for which there's collaborative cross-sectoral action needed. And the ones that are highlighted here, I'll go into in a bit more detail to describe where shipping can really make a difference and provide leadership and action, along with other with like-minded peers in other sectors. So this is really an outline of the key areas: ocean governance, the direct impacts, which we'll talk a bit more about, biodiversity issues, the ocean as an important source of food and food security, which we won't get into here. Also an important area that we'll talk about in terms of increasing ocean knowledge, which is Sustainable Development Goal 14.A, and a program that we have that really focuses on that and how shipping can play a key part in that global effort. Some of these other areas of infrastructure adaptation and resiliency, very important in terms of ports and dealing with disaster and climate change, extreme weather events, and of course increasing the amount of energy from the sea from renewables, which is now becoming a very critical part of alternative fuel development for the shipping industry. But let's dive into about 3 or 4 of these topics in a bit more detail. Just checking my time here. To give you a sense of the more sort of direct and practical aspects of these issues. So plastics and marine debris. I imagine all of you have heard something about this issue. More broadly, for many decades, the issue of marine debris has been an important consideration for the shipping industry, and of course addressed by a variety of components to the MARPOL annexes, so the detailed annexes to the Marine Pollution Treaty organized by the International Maritime Organization, IMO. More recently, of course, the plastics issue has become a huge concern as data has come forward on this issue. And as you can see, the shipping industry is a part of the concern here. Roughly 20% of plastics is thought to come from shipborne or ocean sea-based sources, of which then shipping would be one. That's from the fishing industry, another key one. And so if we look a little bit more detail at an individual vessel, there are of course then a whole series of waste streams of different sorts that are generated, all of which are addressed by IMO MARPOL regulations. The solids are all meant to come ashore and be handled properly on board and prepared for disposal on shore appropriately. But as you can see in the quote in the lower right, there is serious concern and data that's supporting that concern that there is, and that's about waste oil there, that particular quote. But there is more data now coming forward to show that that there is still a potential for a problem with international shipping and solid waste and plastics going over the side where and when they shouldn't. So to focus on moving forward and addressing that problem, there's both an onboard and an onshore aspect to this. And here are some of the key points that come out of the work that's been done, and a lot of people working hard and a lot of companies working hard to make sure that they are playing the role that they need to play in terms of ensuring that nothing is going over the side, that waste is handled appropriately and disposed of appropriately, but certainly onboard there's a need to have there's an opportunity to have much more of a waste minimization process to reduce the amount of plastics that's actually coming onto a vessel, so that there's less to be dealt with on the other side of the equation as waste that needs to be disposed of properly, and so therefore reducing the amount that could accidentally or inappropriately be discharged into the ocean. There's a whole series of strategies and approaches to dealing that in terms of reuse and recycling, conversion of waste to energy. There's a level of company policy practices and purchasing strategies. And so this is something that really needs to be regularly reviewed and addressed at a company level, and then certainly training of crew in terms of waste management practices and documentation, etc. And all of this linking, of course, to the code for safe operations of ships and pollution prevention. So certainly a key role for crew and seafarers individually to be participating in implementing these practices. On shore, this becomes more of a broader sort of institutional effort by ports in cooperation with the shipping industry and other industries such as fishing and others that have waste streams that need to be addressed. In the IMO MARPOL treaty and annexes, this need for adequate port reception facilities is a key component that really the shipping industry collectively, and we're working at the World Ocean Council.
Sorry, folks. Again, a little bit of a problem with the sound. Hold on just a moment. We'll see if I can contact Paul.
Driven by, driven by data from the shipping industry and others that really present the information on the numbers and types of vessels and the waste stream characterization that can help design those port reception facilities that are needed. So we're looking to bring industry together around that and move it forward to really tackle that issue as it continues to be a real challenge as the levels of waste increase, as the levels of shipping increase. Let's move to another issue here, biofouling and invasive species. This is something that any seafarer and shipping company person would be familiar with as a key issue that has bedeviled shipping since its inception. The graph on the left shows the importance of biofouling as an issue in the translocation of invasive species, that are not common to an area and are brought in then by biofouling on vessels. And so it's a significant part of this problem of invasive species that then have a whole series of economic and other kinds of impacts on native ecosystems. Of course, the way this is dealt with is through anti-fouling systems of coatings in particular that are applied, and cleaning of vessels to remove the fouling. And there's a growing number of technologies and services that are available to deal with the cleaning, and a growing number of innovative coatings coating chemistry that's really advancing to help deal with this issue. In terms of the role of the shipping industry and individual companies, then it's really, of course, the need for managing biofouling as a serious issue that obviously has key impacts in terms of the efficiency of the vessel's function, which then, of course, if there's drag created in the hydrodynamics, that leads to increased fuel consumption and CO2 emissions. But certainly, increased fuel consumption will have an important economic implication. So there's a real incentive for companies to manage the biofouling. There are systems in terms of record books in place to help document what sort of anti-fouling system is in place, the coding, when it's been applied, where it's been applied, where the vessel has been, if and how long the vessel's been laid up, if it's in areas that have water temperature and fouling communities that are more conducive to creating a fouling problem, if the voyage routing has been more east-west, and therefore likelihood that the fouling community can persist, as opposed to north-south routing, where temperature changes in the water may help naturally reduce fouling and the transfer of invasive species. There's a continuing problem, of course, with the niche areas, the sea chests that are hard to clean and more amenable to fouling. So really regular inspections, training of the ship's masters and crews, maintaining the quality of the surfaces to reduce fouling. All of these play into what needs to be done. There is now a major program underway for 5 years. The World Ocean Council is the lead industry partner on, in collaboration with the what's called the Global Environment Facility, a major UN funding program, along with the International Maritime Organization and the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, called GLOFouling, the GLOFouling Partnership. And so we certainly encourage companies to get involved in that, and I'm happy to follow up with interested parties. Moving along quickly to another issue, so that we've got time to have questions and a bit of discussion. The issue of marine sound, or noise, ocean noise, a series of a range of industries contribute to anthropogenic, so human developed sound being introduced into the ocean. And in relation to the shipping industry, this is largely what's called radiated noise from the movement of the vessel, the operation of the vessel equipment. And the concern here is the impacts on marine organisms, particularly, as probably most everyone is aware, on marine mammals, whales and dolphins and the like. But also increasingly, there's data that shows that marine sound introduced into the marine environment is having an effect on all kinds of organisms. There are solutions to tackling this issue, technical solutions to reduce radiated noise from vessels, cavitation from the vessel movement and the propeller activity have been documented increasingly to be shown as a key part of that noise portfolio from a vessel. So there are ways to work on that. Actually, machinery noise is a contributing factor, and so reducing that can contribute to minimizing noise that gets into the marine environment, but also obviously is valuable to life on board as well. And then, as I mentioned, the keeping the vessel clean and fouling reduced will be important too. And there are then, specifically regarding marine mammals, technology that's available to address ways to detect and avoid marine mammals as part of the solution on this issue as well. Let me get into a last area here that is really broad and cross-cutting and has enormous sort of win-win potential for the shipping industry. And many companies have been involved in this already in a variety of ways. And this is the collecting of data, collecting and sharing of data, ocean data, weather data, atmospheric data. And of course, the shipping industry has for a long time been involved in providing, through logbooks and the transmission of weather data, and played a tremendous role in the ability we have now to make weather predictions. The concept here is really about expanding and scaling up that role of industry vessels and platforms of all sorts, from shipping, fishing, oil and gas, aquaculture, etc., into a more systematic approach. And we call this the smart ocean, smart industries approach, to really engaging all industries in considering how, if and how, any of their vessels and platforms could be participating in data collection in several ways, by sharing data that is already collected or held by companies. And for shipping, this could include particularly bathymetric data from depth sounding. And this is really, it could significantly contribute to the need to improve hydrographic charts. And so there's an initiative called the Seabed 2030 campaign that WOC is a part of, that's really working with the International Hydrographic Organization.
Oh, sorry, folks. We'll see if we can get Paul back online here. Please bear with us.
Balloons or other instruments that that are available to be participating in, that companies are able to participate in. Let me mention what we do to help move this along then, and that is by implementing this Smart Ocean, Smart Industries program to foster and facilitate the role of industry in linking with scientists to expand the number of vessels and platforms that are involved and improve the coordination and efficiency of that work. So with the number of vessels that are out there, and this number is probably more like 80,000 now, we are able to, we have the opportunity to engage, quite a number of vessels if companies are interested in data collection and sharing. And what we do is, as I say, broker that relationship between industry and the science community to identify where the data collection needs are valuable or would be valuable, recruit companies to be involved in hosting or deploying sensors, and then help facilitate that relationship so it's workable and valuable for the company that's involved, as well as for the science community. So as I say, a real win-win opportunity where shipping can really make a difference here by participating in the Smart Ocean, Smart Industries program, by working, we're ready to work with you to identify what the options are, what the sort of portfolio or menu is for data collection, and to look at the options and the implications for those in terms of installation of instruments or the deployment of instruments. And so, for example, as you can see in the couple of photos there on the right, there's this one program called the Global Drifter Program, whereby the kit, this drifter buoy kit, is available. There's a training package, and companies can participate in this at no charge, no cost. And we facilitate at the World Ocean Council, facilitate companies getting involved in that program and helping fill in the data collection needs in particular areas. So as I say, and to wrap up, there's this opportunity to be involved by deploying instruments, by hosting sensors on vessels, installing instruments that test water as it moves through from the cooling intake to the engine. And so this instrumentation you see in the lower left corner does that, and companies have installed this, and also collecting and sharing bathymetric data. So I will end there, and I hope there haven't been any interruptions to my audio feed, and that you've all got the slides, and I'm happy to go over any of this and respond to questions, and certainly follow up with companies that are interested in getting more information. So thanks very much, David, and I'll pass it back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Paul. I'll just Okay, thanks, Paul. Can you hear me?
I can. And
Excellent.
did we
Well,
did we have any interruptions to the audio?
we did a few times, but it was only for a few seconds each.
Okay.
So hopefully,
Apologies for that.
hopefully people will have been able to read between the lines. Um, so there was a lot of information there. That was a fantastic presentation, Paul. Thank you so much. Just for the listening audience, a copy of those slides is available from the handout area, so feel free to download those. And of course, a recording will be available on our YouTube channel. And I can't recommend participation in the World Ocean Council too much. It's a fantastic organization. We've been members for 10 years, and from somebody like myself who is 100% engrossed in shipping, it's so nice to recognize that we are just a ocean user and there are so many other ocean users, and to be able to have that cross-platform with everything from conservation, aquaculture, fishing, uh, mining. It's just a fantastic organization to be part of. And Paul made specific references to what shipping companies can do to become engaged. And I do implore you, if you are with a shipping company and you can be part of the World Ocean Council and support some of these initiatives, please do. Right. So, Paul, I see you've had a nice sip, which is good because that was a long presentation. Um, um, there are some questions that we can start with. There are a couple questions around this area, and Alan highlights one. He says, when do you think that corporate's ocean responsibility will reach the shipping sector? Now, you and I both know that it has, certainly with some companies who have shown exemplary leadership. But what, other than a consciousness, and you and I who swim and dive in the sea have a high level of consciousness of what happens. But other than that level of consciousness, why would a shipping company want to embrace corporate ocean responsibility?
Yeah, David, there is, as you say, there are a lot of companies that have been recognizing their role and responsibility and working to understand what they could and should be doing and moving down that track. And there's a whole range of issues to be tackled, and we've mentioned a lot of them, and then dove in a bit deeper on several of them, and we didn't even get into the whole CO2 emission side, where there's of course a huge amount of concern, but also a huge amount of work going on. So why companies would pick this up? I think there's clearly at one level, some companies see this as a purely a responsibility, that this is what good corporate citizenship is all about. But I think there's also, of course, important business benefits that are driving this, and people see that. So there's reputational value to being seen and being delivering on progress amongst many of these issues. So probably the most high profile one on the global agenda right now is the CO2 emissions work, and so a whole group of companies that are banding together to tackle that. Of course, the recent introduction of the sulfur cap and the switch over to low sulfur fuels that happened in January this year. Tremendous leadership by the shipping industry to help develop that and then respond to it. Clearly a regulatory piece that came into play there. So there's that reputational value that's important. There's also a leadership role in helping shape and anticipate the regulations as they come. So companies that are being more have more foresight exercises underway to really see where change is going to happen and how to be out in front on that and operationalize solutions in advance of regulation that has then economic value, that you don't have to make those changes all of a sudden when the regulations do come in. So I think there's a range of things, and to me, one of the most important things is the scale up of these things. And so leadership companies helping pave the way, lead the way, but that other companies then can learn from that and come along if that's more their ability and appetite, but to not be lagging behind, but really look at what's going on and get.
Sorry, folks. Sorry, we're having a problem with Paul's computer that only cropped up early this morning.
There we go. There's some glitch in the system that gives us about a 10-second gap there periodically. Apologies for that.
That's thanks for that answer, Paul. And I mean, you and I have both worked at the IMO and at the UN, and one of the frustrations that shipping companies have is when they get unmanageable regulations that were regulated from the best of intentions, but without the practical implication in the drafting groups from ship owners. So this is another reason to be proactive.
Right.
There will be changes.
Yeah.
We have to make changes, and the sustainable development goals will drive change. But whether that change is practical, whether it's achievable on board from an operations point of view, will depend on the level of involvement of companies in these changes.
Yeah. You need to be at the table. You need to shape your own future, because the change and the regulation is coming, whether you like it or not.
All right. So that's one of the big reasons to get involved. Paul, plastics. Lots of questions on plastics. And JN in particular asks, very simple question: how can we reduce the amount of plastics being dumped in our oceans? So you mentioned that about 20% come from shipboard operators. We know that from a shipping company's point of view, there are a lot of plastics on board. What have you seen as ways that shipping companies can reduce the amount of plastics that they have?
Yeah, there's really an opportunity here for the shipping industry to drive change and innovation. If you think about a vessel as a sort of a microcosm of the planet, in the sense that every plastic that comes on board has got to be accounted for and dealt with. And so if we can reduce that amount in the first place, then it reduces as a consequence the disposal issue. So if at the front end, if the shipping industry, I think collectively, can really help go upstream to the supply chain and say, look, let's really analyze every bit of plastic that's coming on board. Do we need that material in the first place? And so I think materials that are wrapped in big plastic sheeting on the pallets, is there an alternative to that? And this creates business opportunities for the innovators to develop solutions. Is the product itself in a plastic container that doesn't need to be plastic, or at a level of the numbers of containers that are used? So first is obviously to really cut down the plastic coming on board. When the plastic is on board, there are some innovative solutions. The plastics to fuel sort of conversion technology that's being developed. The shipping industry collectively could provide a market to help drive that process to make it more efficient and economical. And so, I think what I would suggest that a group of companies really starting to drive change on this, on the plastics issue, from that whole supply chain through to onboard management of the material through to the disposal practices, could really create incentives for innovation and business development opportunities that help the industry solve its problem, its issues with the plastics. And that there are initiatives out there that industry could connect to, and so happy to help facilitate that to the way that we can. And then at the far end of the stream, waste stream, then, is this point I was making about the port waste reception facilities. So for the foreseeable future, there's going to be a need to dispose of waste onshore properly, and we need those facilities, enough of them, of the right kinds, that operate effectively and economically for industry to be able to participate in their use.
Thanks, Paul. I must say, one of the there is huge amount of room here for innovation, and maybe even using the startup community to help us with this. But one of the best examples that I've ever seen, I was on a large ferry, and I noticed that the crew were very proactive in collecting all sorts of recycled materials: cans, bottles, cooking oil, plastics, light bulbs, everything. And I was very impressed, and I said, well, how did you motivate the crew to do this? And the superintendent who I was with very simply said, we have a commercial contractor that comes, collects all the recyclables, and pays for it. And everything that they pay, we give to the crew. So we buy them mountain bikes, we buy them IT, we buy them whatever they want. They can form a committee. They take all the income from the waste recycling, and then they use it for benefits of the crew. So I mean, that was a great example. But
Yeah.
how close are we to having more of that? Do you have any knowledge of reception facilities that do pay for the recycling materials?
That's a great example, dude. I don't off the top of my head know, how many are operating in that way, but I think the point then is that these examples that are working, we need to really make them more known and widely distributed so that we can help them be replicated. And that's the sort of thing that we aspire to do by pulling together this multi-industry working group or forum on shipborne waste and port reception facilities, to really make sure we understand already, that the industry community understands what the options are, what the examples are out there that could be adopted and scaled up and replicated elsewhere. And I think there's a lot of, as you say, there's a need for innovation, and a lot of great innovation going on already. Let's work on making that more moving more quickly towards solving this problem.
Right. So if anybody's listening, if you do have good ideas, or if you do have examples of this, please contact Paul or myself. Between the World Ocean Council and the Nautical Institute, we will do what we can to raise the profile of good ideas.
I might mention, David, also in relation to this, there is a growing community of innovation initiatives. So accelerators, incubators, startup challenges. Some are maritime focused, some are more broadly ocean and blue economy focused. What we're doing at the World Ocean Council is linking those together and working to bring the ocean users, so shipping and other industries, into that process more directly, to say, let's take these innovation efforts and really focus them on very specific issues, like how to create incentives for collection of waste on board, and what sort of port reception facility operations are necessary, so that we get these innovators and these challenge competitions really focused on very specific practical needs that are driven by the ocean user community, such as shipping. And so bringing those ideas forward from shipping would help us help you in that sense.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Paul. And for anybody looking to get involved in these startups, we did a webinar on startups about a month or so ago, and it's on the YouTube channel. And there are loads of links to all the various different accelerators in the shipping industry that you might look at. So, Paul, this is a question from Sean, and it has to do with proactive versus restrictive almost. He says, should shipping companies be encouraged and made to sign up to support programs like the World Ocean Council?
I mean, the short answer is no. I mean, I think, you know, people need to get involved because they're motivated. They see the benefits. I mean, there's a role for regulation and requirements, and there's a role for voluntary leadership based on, you know, incentives and value. And so you know, it's of course we would like, and as David's been saying, you know, the more companies that get involved in these collective efforts, such as the World Ocean Council or other initiatives that are more specifically focused on particular issues like on the decarbonization, etc., the more there's a critical mass of the industry shaping and driving the future, and as we talked about earlier, helping shape the regulatory process and inform the regulatory process. So you know, we work hard to create value and benefits that make it of interest and value for companies to get involved, and that's really the space we're in. And so we'd be, you know, happy to have more companies get involved as we move forward.
That's a great answer, Paul. And you know, having participated with the World Ocean Council over the various years, you know, having that, having the volunteers there for the right reasons creates a really nice energy and positiveness. Whereas in other forums where there is a regulatory aspect, you have a lot of people that are there with different agendas. But at the World Ocean Council, I mean, you've got great energy of people who really want to make a difference. So this is a fairly specific question, Paul, and it's from Nahush. And on one of your slides for the biofouling cleaning system, you showed the hulls being cleaned and kind of in a mist of debris. Does cleaning the hull create a different type of pollution?
It does, and that actually, that very, very astute observation there. That in fact, that was not a good example, because that's not good practice. That's not best practice. So really, cleaning, and I'd have to say, hull cleaning, vessel cleaning is a very difficult and dangerous job, and so it's becoming more and more automated. And as part of that is tackling that issue of the debris or the sediment, as it's called, that cloud that emerges, and so that needs to be captured. So the rules and regulation, and this is a good example, this issue of where the regulatory process is moving. So Australia, New Zealand, my home state here in Hawaii, the state of California, there's this patchwork of regulatory responses emerging, and it's a global issue, and it needs to be connected up on a global scale, and that's why we're working with IMO in the Glow Fouling project. But to get to the specific point there, that debris, that sediment needs to be captured. It's a pollution issue, and it's also actually, more importantly, can spread the biofouling again. So you get the parts that break off from the biofouling organisms. Some of those can then recolonize the pier pilings, the wharf facings, etc., that then just perpetuate the problem. And so the new and appropriate technology, and some of the companies that have developed this are members of the World Ocean Council, capture that, it gets disposed of on land, and that's really what needs to be done.
Thanks, Paul. This question comes from Beverly, and she says, thank you very much for the presentation. If you had to pick one issue that was most important for the shipping industry to address, what would it be? And I'm going to add on to that, how would you do it?
You know, these are great. That's a great way to approach the situation, but it's always a tough one. I mean, there's, you know, it really depends on the set of circumstances. You know, I would, in terms of so I'm going to leave the atmospheric, the CO2 aside, since we didn't cover that, and we, I mean, we don't tackle that because so many great efforts are underway on that. Within the suite of things that I outlined, the issues and the opportunities, to me, well, I'm going to give two answers. One, in terms of an opportunity that's not so much addressing an impact directly, this smart ocean, smart industries, in terms of a win-win for leadership and showing a real concern for the ocean and understanding the ocean and what's going on, the opportunity for industry, for shipping to get involved in data collection and sharing is just a tremendous one that really encourage companies that are interested in that to get in touch so that we can get you involved in this. And as I say, many companies have been participating in programs off and on over the years. In terms of the more impact issues, if I had to choose one, you know, I think tackling the you know, I hate having to do this because then somebody will say, well, why didn't you talk about the other issue? You know, I think because of the global awareness and concern about the plastics issue, and to me, it's part of that broader marine debris issue and the role of shipping and other industries in relation to the ocean, that I think you know, movement on and progress and collaboration on dealing with the plastics would be something that would really serve the shipping industry well, because it's such a high profile issue. So it's got more multiplier effect, you know, in terms of really doing well for the industry in that sense.
Thanks, Paul. It was a very tough question, but thanks for tackling it. But you know, in society today, you know, as on board ships, you know, some of these issues can seem so insurmountable that individuals don't know where to start. And you know, that's a good start. And just an example, you and I have talked for many years about, it's about winning hearts and minds. You know, there is a role for regulation, but it's also winning hearts and minds. Can you hear me? I've lost Paul for a bit. But one of the examples, when I was on board ship, when we started not throwing plastics overboard from Open 90, I gave the lecture to the crew to say that no plastics were to go over, and we had plastic reception facility all over the boat. And then I went up to the bridge, and I was on the bridge wing. It was a lovely afternoon, and I heard plop, 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 and I looked back, and I saw these green plastic waste bags being thrown over the fantail. And so I raced down as fast as I could to find the culprit, and I found him, and it was the messman. And I said, look, just an hour ago, I gave a lecture about no plastics overboard. What part of that did you not understand? And he says, oh, I thought you were saying that because you had to, not that we really should do it. And I thought for a moment, and I said, okay. I said, you've been at sea for a long time. Can you remember your first ship? And he says, yes, of course I can. I said, can you remember the first piece of plastic that you threw over? And he said, no. I said, well, imagine, could it have been a coat hanger or a styrofoam cup? He said, yeah, okay. I said, it's there. It's still there. And every single piece of plastic in the last 30 years of your career is still there somewhere. And he was so shocked. He became my plastics champion on board. He went through every sack of garbage. He would not allow any plastic to go over the side. And so this is the approach that we've taken at the Nautical Institute, is that we much rather educate people and win hearts and minds than to drive down regulation.
Yeah.
So that's just a little example. Paul, we're getting tight on time. We've got a couple questions, and this one is from Rebecca, and there's another one from a chap in Bangladesh that I'll send you separately, asking how can schools be involved?
Great question. Yeah, and I know some of our colleagues in the shipping industry that have been working on education and working with schools that would be great to refer people to. There's a whole opportunity for, I think, helping inform kids about shipping and how important it is to their lives as part of this. And I think creating that awareness in the general.
We seem to have lost Paul again. So we are tight on time. We have a lot of questions that we haven't been able to answer, but we will try to address them in due time. If you would like to contact either Paul or myself, the email addresses are there on your screen. Feel free to contact us. I would promote membership
Information and awareness of responsibility and working together on these issues.
Thanks, Paul. Unfortunately, we missed a bit of that due to the audio problems, but sorry for that. We are going to have to wrap things up here. So I have told everybody that they can contact us if they would like. I will stress very much that both the World Ocean Council and the Nautical Institute are membership organizations. Membership organizations work when people join and participate. So please join us and carry on this conversation, carry on the good work that we're doing. And thank you very much for your attention today. I won't say this morning because I'm watching the sunrise over London, and Paul's probably long since seen the sunset in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So Paul, just thank you so much for joining us and your expertise and all the good work you're doing for the world.
Thank you. Thanks, David.
Okay. And thanks for everybody watching. Paul, I'll invite you to log off and I will close the webinar. Thanks very much and have a good day.